Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Roll call.
Gehrig?
Here.
Grinberg?
Here.
Pepcorn?
Here.
Strand?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here. Fargo Cast Public Health has started its annual garden boxes, which recently produced lettuce, parsley, kale, and basil. Each week, the garden committee harvests the produce, which clients, patients, and visitors are encouraged to take home. The community is invited to stop by and see what is available during the rest of the growing season. The 25th annual Fargo Police Department Community Picnic was recently held with success. Beautiful night. Chief Todd says the weather was perfect and there was a large turnout from the community, had very positive comments about their interactions with members of the police department. The inspection department would like to showcase some projects done in the past year. The projects include dilapidated building cases, which ended up ready for future development lots, and substandard building and housing rehabilitation cases, which ended up updated property that beautified a neighborhood. Here are some of the before and after pictures of what the team's been working on. Bruce, I just know you had some empty lots and the public would like to know what's going to happen with those, or what are the opportunities for those empty lots?
Most of those empty lot cases came to the commission as dangerous building cases. They do remain the ownership of the property owner, so it's up to them to decide what they do, sell it or develop it themselves.
But it's ready to go.
Yep.
Very good. I think the commissioners are happy you're making progress. Thank you very much, you and your team. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda moving item 23 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and moving item 46 just in front of 41 because John Shockley has to go to the West Fargo meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes June 17th, 2019 regular meeting?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Minutes approved.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 40, excluding item 23, which has been moved to the regular agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. So we're going to have a Fargo diversion update. We're going to have John Shockley lead that off, and then the Fargo Youth Initiative is going to be up next. With a song, or no? No, not yet? Okay.
I'm going to dance.
I think Commissioner Strand had asked what the update, and I think it's a little convoluted, what's happening with the diversion, but you have about four moving items right now. One would be litigation, also some of the WIFIA loan discussion I think is important. And I think Commissioner Grinberg has talked about the financial package, what you're doing with that, and then I'll leave it for questions after that, John. So if you'd please try to address what pertinent things that are going on.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Fargo City Commission. I think I'll first start with the low-hanging fruit of what's going on with the finance plan and WIFIA. So the overall finance plan for the project is under development right now. We're expecting to have a more public review of that updated finance plan given the approvals from the federal government regarding increasing the federal cost share from $450 million to $750 million, and also the increase in funds from the state from a commitment of 570 up to 750 million, and then re-looking at what our sales tax numbers are and the projections moving forward, along with some of the changes in our permanent financing package. Regarding the permanent financing package, we are currently working on what is referred to as a letter of interest with respect to US EPA WIFIA. US EPA WIFIA is a program that was started through the Water Infrastructure Act and that divides it into projects that are eligible for EPA financing and projects that are eligible for US Army Corps of Engineer financing. Our project, after some analysis, has about $1.3 billion of elements that are subject or available for US EPA financing, which under the EPA rules, we can receive up to 49% of that in a loan. And that would be about $500 to $560 million, depending upon as we finalize the financial plan. The advantage of securing an EPA WIFIA program is the payments aren't due for 5 years until after substantial completion of the project. So for instance, if the project is completed in 2026, principal payments don't have to start until 2031. The other advantage to WIFIA is it is a 35-year repayment at US Treasury rates, and so it's very, very competitive. It's hard to compete with that in the private bond market. And the final advantage to WIFIA is that you can sculpt the debt service to match the revenues that are produced by sales tax. So very, very positive news on that front. We'll be submitting that letter of interest that was approved by the Finance Board and the Diversion Authority on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. We would know from WIFIA in 90 to 120 days whether we're invited to apply. I would note that it's a very competitive program, and it's not our only program that we'll be applying for. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is in the process of standing their own WIFIA program up, and that's a much smaller program. And in the Corps program, we're probably a bigger project in the Corps world than we are in the EPA program. We're also working through some SRF, the State Revolving Loan Fund, to determine if there's some elements of the project that can be financed through the SRF program, which is a 30-year term with 2% interest. So all very positive news, and that'll be summarized in a financial plan. I think one of the questions regarding the Buffalo Red Watershed District permit, maybe start from the very basic and build. What is it? It was the Diversion Authority submitted a permit application to Buffalo Red River Watershed District for elements of the project located within the jurisdiction of Buffalo Red. It wasn't a permit for the entire project. It was simply for the items that are located within the watershed district. As part of the approval of Minnesota DNR's permit, Minnesota DNR's findings of fact specifically indicated that local governing units could not say no to the project. They can only permit certain elements of the project within their jurisdiction. Like if the pipe is the right size, if the crossing is the right size. And so there's certainly a disagreement between the position taken by DNR and Buffalo Red. On Thursday night, or Thursday afternoon, the Diversion Authority indicated that it would go ahead and appeal that permit denial by Buffalo Red Watershed District. On Friday, they had met in executive session with their attorneys and expressed to us a desire to continue talking about if there's alternative solutions to going through with litigation. And those conversations have continued from Thursday up just prior to this time this meeting started. And so certainly there's no deal in the works yet, but we're talking about alternatives to litigation. And there's some time between the permit decision and the time that would be required to file. Once again, that permit denial doesn't stop the entire project. And in fact, it doesn't prohibit us from reapplying in the future or coming to some sort of solution with Buffalo Red. I would just note from a very large project standpoint, it's a complex project. There's a lot of different moving parts. We'll be going through a lot of different permit approvals. There's a lot of permits on the program. There's permits from the State Water Commission. There's permits from Minnesota DNR. There's permits from the Army Corps of Engineers. There's permits from local governing units. And so it's a process. We'll work through those issues and we'll continue. On this year's construction, the federal judge, Judge Thunheim, authorized the continued construction of the diversion inlet. My understanding is that their Ames has remobilized and is currently dewatering that site. That judge also indicated that it was okay to proceed with bidding out and construction of the Wild Rice Inlet along with the Western Tieback Levee and to recommence the P3 procurement. So really for the construction efforts for this year, those are ongoing. And each year there'll be another segment of construction within the program. And we're trying to match that up with our long-term financing plan for the program. That's sort of an overview of where we're at. I can try to answer the questions as.
Mr. Strand, any questions?
Thank you.
That kind of what you were looking for?
Well, it is for a start. Thank you, Commissioner or Mayor. I guess my biggest concern is we're so close to having a project, but we keep having these bumps in the road that delay us. And what I'm concerned about are the costs of the delays, the risks to the community if with the erratic weather out there. Who knows when we may get an event that we will wish we had the diversion in place. So what I'd like to know is how do we get past this disagreement? It was a 3-3 vote. How do we get past this agreement and invest our monies into the future, into mitigation, into the plan, into protection, rather than these millions of dollars being spent continually in litigation and the costs just skyrocketing because of the delays?
Commissioner Strand, that's a very good question. So first of all, I would say our immediate short-term plan is to try to work through these issues with the Buffalo Red Watershed District. They have expressed an intent to try to work with us rather than proceed with litigation. On their side, they're facing the same analysis of do we want to go through with the additional litigation and incur that cost. So we're going to try to work as hard as we can to make a resolution of that issue within what what's acceptable from a business standpoint. Ultimately, sometimes decisions need to be appealed to judges. Sometimes judges have to make decisions because, that's their role. I would say that our strategy has been to try to mitigate the risk going to litigation by trying to reach out to different parties and bring them to the table and make them into stakeholders as best as we can. That's been the governor's task force, the times that our diversion authority leadership, including the mayor, has reached out to different groups and trying to work to resolve those differences before they end up in litigation. Once again, I would go back to it is a big, complex project, and there's going to be some bumps along the road to getting it done. We have multiple jurisdictions that the project crosses. Every time there's an election every 2 years, there's a new board, whether it's a township board or a city board, that we have to spend the time educating them and reaching out with them. So.
But the good news is, Commissioner Strand, is that they came back with 5 issues. So they've brought it down to a number of issues that they're concerned about. They're doable issues, which John thinks they can work at. So it's a lot easier to say we're against the whole project. Well, they're just the Buffalo Water District that they're in is what they really can object to. And I think John's done a great job of, okay, what are the issues? Let's isolate them. And the second issue is the DNR is our partner, because they're suing the DNR as well with contested hearing. So it's a little different now. We're working with the DNR in a resolution. So of all the bumps we've hit, this is a more minor bump that they're wanting to try to work with us, and I think we'll get some progress. So you have to have some hope. 3-3 tie is better than a 6-0 vote. Any other questions? You're working on the finance.
Yeah, I mean, John covered the high points very well. I'd just add that, you know, the estimated cost for Plan B built into this starting in 2020. So each, you know, at present, each day of delay really isn't impacted because it's captured in the budget to begin in 2020. If we get delays beyond 2020, then John's point is spot on with somebody's going to have to start paying.
And if I might continue, Mayor Mahoney and Commissioners, in my communications over the years with folks upstream, especially who are impacted, they don't always sense that there are folks at this table that understand farmers and that understand their world and understand their culture of living on farms. Well, I do. I grew up on a farm. I understand the farming culture. And I want folks impacted to know that there are voices at this table that will fight for them. And we'll fight for fair mitigation, and we'll fight for proper easements, and we'll fight for their getting a fair treatment at the table. And truly, we'll fight for them. And I think folks I know this, and it's not just me, but this is where we're at. But we need to get past this litigation and get to the point where we're investing in the project and investing in our people who are our partners, including the farmers whose land's impacted. So I just hope we get past it. I hope the folks on the Buffalo Red, you know, come around. I hope we can work with everybody. I hope we can get going forward on a project that it's just so critical. We watch the world news these days and watch what's happening with weather events and weather cycles. We don't have time to waste. So I thank you for your support, and I thank you for addressing this tonight. And I just wanted to put that message out there that let's get past this and get going forward and invest our monies where they'll get the result that we all need, including those impacted folks.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go to your next meeting. Thanks. Fargo Youth Initiative report. Who's going to give this today? Have you go to that podium over there? Nicole, are you going to orchestrate this, or they're going to do it all themselves, or?
I think they can certainly do it all themselves, but I just wanted to give them a quick introduction. The Fargo Youth Initiative, annually they present their end-of-year report, and we're thrilled to have this very active team giving you the highlights.
Very good. I think both mics are hot, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Okay. Hi, my name is Tate Fisher,
I'm Grace Beauchamp. And I'm Juliet Sampson.
and we're just three of the members of the Fargo Youth Initiative from the years 2018 and 2019. Just a little bit about us, just a debriefing. So our mission statement is empowering the voice and uniting the youth of Fargo through actions and teamwork. The vision of FYI is the atmosphere where youth has a positive, sustainable impact on the community of Fargo, and we aim to, most of these, the mission and the vision is produced through Impact Fargo, but we're hoping to expand on that, more on that later. So we have three main functions, obviously, to serve as the liaison between the City of Fargo and the youth of Fargo, to investigate needs, problems, and issues affecting the youth of Fargo, and to research issues and make policy our project recommendations to the Fargo City Commission, what we're here to do today. So we have 15 members, 6 from North High, 6 from Davies, 2 from South, and 1 member from Shanley. And I'll turn it over to...
Okay, so every year we host this program called Impact Fargo. So this right here is basically the agenda for the past 3 of these that we have hosted. So 2016, it was March 21st on, it was located in the Fargo Theater. Our speakers were Cam Knutson, Jody Reagan, and Project Hute, and in attendance we had about 50 students, mostly from North High School. Then the next year it was hosted at NDSU, and our speakers were Caitlin Dargan, Lauren Singelman, Lindsay Flory, and Imagine Thriving. And then we had about 150 students, mostly from Davies and North, but a few from South. And then in 2018, we held it at the Sanctuary Event Center, and our speakers were Brittany Engbritson and Janelle Ringenball and Annie Wood, Micaiah Selekwa, and Joe Bergam. And we had about 120 students, mostly from Davies and North again. And this year we had the conference, basically, it was hosted at the in the City Commission chambers at April 15th, and was also broadcast live on Facebook and TV. Basically, the gist of Impact Fargo is that we feature speakers that discuss how Fargo has shaped their lives and how students can make an impact in Fargo. And our 2019 theme was the future of Fargo, and we again had 4 speakers. And one principal thing that we do every year is we have this thing called the Power Half Hour, which is a time when participants discuss what students like, dislike, and would like to change about Fargo. So basically, we're getting feedback from the youth of Fargo about how they feel about the community. So our 2019 speakers were Dr. Tim Mahoney, our mayor, and Chelsea Ewan, Representative Joshua Boshi from the ND House, and Rachel Stone, and finally Fred Edwards.
So like she mentioned, something cool that happens during Impact Fargo is Power Half Hours. And what we do for that is everybody has a different color on the back of their name tags, and that splits them up into groups. And when you meet in these small groups, you talk about things that you like about Fargo, things that you don't like, and things that you wish Fargo had. So we collected some of the responses to share with you. So some of the things that students liked were outdoor events. So everything from Streets Alive to Red River Market, Fargo Marathon. Students really liked just being outdoors and having fun. They also really liked the new all-in-one recycling, so you don't have to sort out paper from glass, just being able to put everything all together. Another thing that people liked was that even though Fargo's growing, it still feels small. It still feels like a community. We still have like a family of Fargo. We also liked the parks, just being able, again, to go outside and have fun, even in the winter, to go sledding. And then this is from a student perspective, but we like that there's both athletic and academic opportunities in Fargo for students to do as they're looking at college or even just enjoying high school. And then back to like the smaller feel of Fargo, we really liked the family vibe that is here. And some wants that we had, more outdoor concerts and festivals, winter events, art festivals for youth, pop-up restaurants, and really marketing to youth more aggressively. I think sometimes students feel like they're kind of left out in the business world, so maybe they want businesses to target them specifically and to host events that are targeted towards them to have a good time. Another thing was making downtown and other places more safe for minors. Sometimes at night, downtown can get kind of dark, so maybe improved lighting on the streets and in alleyways, more spaces for minors downtown open late because it's mainly bars or like upwards of 21, so having safer places downtown for youth, and then more trees and shrubs, bushes, just to make it a nicer feel. So, and then the last thing that people wanted really was diversity of culture. So maybe art festivals or just bringing in different cultures so students can see more of the world in Fargo.
All right, so in the future, we plan to try to have near equal representation from all Fargo schools, including Oak Grove, Shanley, and Woodrow, schools not usually included in the North-South Davies triad that most of us know of. We want to continue research on top needs of youth in Fargo through our guest speakers at Impact, studies, just the whole package. Implementing initiatives beyond Impact Fargo is one of our main goals for this next 2019-2020 season. We want to partner with other agencies. We've been talking with other agencies in the Fargo area, but we haven't actually right away connected with any of them to make a sort of plan for service projects, for other such things that we really want to be doing. We want to really our goal for next year is shifting our focus more away from Impact Fargo, because we've gotten into the groove of doing Impact Fargo and we want to start doing something a little more different. And obviously part of that is collaborating with our city officials. So we have 3 questions for you. How can we help you? What input would you like to have from us? And is there anything we could do for you in this coming year? Just
And we get the answer now?
Yeah.
Mr. Gehrig, do you have some advice here? All right. Mr. Strand?
I thank you. I'd absolutely welcome policy advice. If there's a topic out there or topics out there in our community that concern you, let's put our energies together and advance a policy proposal that will go forward with the concerns you have. So I'd welcome that. I think it'd be a great exercise for us all, civic-wise, and for you especially to have your fingerprints on action items in our community that make it better for youth in the future. So come up with some ideas. Come up with the actual policies and bring them to us, and let's see where we all land.
And one pressing policy that we'd like to look at is scooters. So do you want scooters all over downtown? Do you want that ability to transport? So a lot of big cities have started to do that, and the right-of-way on the sidewalk is a scooter, not the people walking. And as you can understand, some people get in accidents because of that. Second, if you'd like to look at North Fargo, what do we do with those empty lots? What would your guys' suggestion to be? And then we have a couple of park areas or empty vacant areas. Can we do there? Could we make it a place that the youth come together and do different things? So those are my three questions.
I would just strong advice of getting involved, because involvement makes a difference. And so as you go through your path of your career, and hopefully you'll stay in Fargo, you get involved in various initiatives that you're passionate about. And in particular, a lot of discussion about land development codes and neighborhood preservation. Those are just two examples from your generation to give us some ideas and concepts how to make the community better.
All right. Yeah, thank you. We're going to have a meeting after this with some of our new members that are sitting right here. And so we're going to be generating some ideas and some sort of stuff like that.
All the new members, please stand up for us just so we see who you are. And can we just have your names? Congratulations. We're looking forward to some good stuff. Anything else for the Commissioner? Commissioner Pipcorn, you want to make a word from far away?
No, thanks.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Item 42, Commissioner Garrick would like to discuss server training.
Sure. And while we get ready, Steve, can you come up here too so I can answer some questions with me? There's been some, I think, legitimate concerns aired in public recently revolving around liquor licensure, specifically around compliance checks and server training. So I asked Steve to come up with some numbers for us. And it is true that in the ordinance, we're going to strive for 4 compliance checks per liquor establishment per year. That's correct? That's what we're striving for?
Yes, in the ordinance, it calls for 4 compliance checks per year, yes.
Yep, so just to put that in context, we have, I think, 200 or nearly 200 establishments just in the city of Fargo, and it includes restaurants, bars, off-sale, things like that. So if we're doing 5 checks a day, on a normal week, that would be 3 per day. So that's a lofty goal. It's a goal I think we should shoot for, but it is a lofty goal, and it does take a lot of man hours to do those things. The second issue that was brought up was server training, and this is maybe the more interesting point for this discussion. With the server training, if you could just break down some of the numbers that we talked about this week, or last week, I should say, as far as how many we're training per month, who's conducting that training, and how short are we falling on that?
So some of the numbers that have been like in the media are saying that we're right around 50% on server training, and that was true as of about January. And then we did send out a letter to the licensees that were following short of that. And subsequent to that, and with the continued server training, we're now closer to 80% of the licensees. Still not, meeting that 100%, but certainly much better. So the number of people, and I've gotten a little bit more of an education this past week too. The classes hold 50 people per class, and I believe we're doing 1 a week, so that's 4 a month essentially. If you kind of do the math quick, it's about 2,500 people a year that we can do. When you look at the number of servers that are out there, it's a big number. There's probably 4,000 to 5,000 servers that are out there. Now the server training class, that once you've taken that class, it's good for 3 years, and then after that you can do 1 online renewal. So once they've gone through class with that online renewal, they don't have to come back to class for a 6-year period.
Okay. So with the server training, we're obviously have a lot of classes. There's a lot of people doing it. I want the commission to understand what the ordinance really says. It says every holder of a liquor license in the city of Fargo shall implement a program of mandatory server training. That training shall be approved by the Fargo Police Department or a designee. So right now we're conducting that training, correct? We have an officer there or a sheriff or someone like that that's actually conducting the training?
Correct. Someone from law enforcement, yes.
Okay. So what I want the city commission here to consider is maybe we shouldn't be doing that, because it doesn't say that we have to have our people doing it. It takes our man hours to do it. We have to try to get the people in the classes. We're taking all of that extra time and effort to set up these classes and then actually conduct the classes. If we look at the ordinance, how it's written, each establishment can have their own training. It just has to be approved by us. So if we step back and remove ourselves from having to conduct the class and manage the class, I think we could see a higher level of compliance if they can train themselves, or if the bars themselves can get together and have their own classes. That way they're not limited to whatever limitation the city has as far as manpower goes. So the reason I want to bring this forward today is I don't want to wait until the next liquor control meeting. I want to get your guys' feel of, is there an appetite to maybe change this? Do you guys want to refer it back to liquor control and come back with a recommendation? Or do we start talking to staff and say, hey, can we implement this over time? No one's suggesting that we should just stop the training today and throw it back to the bar owners and say that you guys take care of it. But over time, I think if we implement a system where they are able to train their own people, it might even be better training because they can focus on their area of Fargo, what their issues are at that particular bar. Because not every bar is the same. Not every bar has the same issues. A bar in downtown Fargo is very different than one in South Fargo, and they can tailor their training to their clientele.
We have Chief up there too. Is he making a comment? Is that why you brought him over?
If you'd like to, certainly.
Chief Todd, just to his question, is there any, I'm assuming the reason we do the training now is for consistency. Is there any other way of delivering the same product or the same educational issues? What's the best way to do this, or should liquor control look at this and see what they're coming up with?
Well, we do provide the training, and probably the Fargo Police Department provides the majority of that training. Occasionally we get officers from other agencies that chip in and help us a little bit. And we can do more than 4 a month if the demand is there. So I think we can meet demand. I don't think that's the issue. I know Commissioner Gehrig is more concerned about the time involved for officers and whether that should used somewhere else. I would agree that there might be consistency issues as to what gets taught, but if we're approving the course, perhaps that can be addressed. I guess the one thing is this ordinance is really about oversight. And if you're asking liquor license holders to provide their own oversight, that seems a little bit different. Maybe that would be a conflict of interest there.
I think the concern is the compliance was 50, now it's 80. It's not the intent of the ordinance as it was, right, Tony? That's part of what you're objecting, Commissioner Gehrig. And I think maybe if you could take it back to liquor control and have a discussion, because there's oversight, there's also consistency. What are we trying to accomplish? And I think we really need to go back what was the original reason of the ordinance, make sure we didn't serve underage people, right?
And overserve.
And overserve. So two elements you're trying to do is overserving and underage. And if there's a better way of doing that, you'd have to look at that. In my training, everybody takes ACLS, and that has to go to specific groups. Sanford could do it, but what happens is everybody has to be trained the same course, so then all of us have to go to some place to take that. If everybody did it on their own, you might do it a little bit differently. So that's where I can see some concerns about if there's not consistency. But maybe it's something for a good discussion.
I will tell you that although people grumble about having to go to it, the health department does reviews of the class, has people write a review of the class afterwards, an anonymous one. And the overwhelming response is that they felt the class was well done and worthwhile.
Commissioner Gehrig?
So as far as like the standards, you know, we will still see overseeing the syllabus. So we can have the minimum standards we want in every single training, and then they have to comply with that, otherwise they're not complying with the ordinance. So that's how we'll address that. My biggest concern is the use of officer time. So we have obviously a finite number of officers. We are not meeting the compliance check standard that we have set for ourselves. I think our time and effort will be more, we use well or better if we were to actually go to the establishments and see if they're complying with the training that we're trying to give them. So I think that what I'm hearing maybe is that I'll go back to liquor control. I will offer the minimum standards, you know, what all this training would entail, how we would approve it, and then we'll bring it back here and see if you guys want to do that. But the reason I brought it here first is that if it's a no-go to begin with, I'm not going to spend the time and effort to change the way we do it.
I mean, you're responding to some of the public concern. I think it's reasonable it goes back, discussed, and bring back a proposal to the commission.
That's what we'll do.
You're not prepared now with an ordinance or anything, right?
No.
No, okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Pepcorn, any comments? You're on liquor control. Do you think you guys can look at that?
No, I think that's a great suggestion to bring it to liquor control. There's lots of concerns about that, and I think we, as a group, we have a good group that can look at them.
Very good. So that's how we resolve it? Okay, we'll go to public hearings. Our 43A is withdrawn, zoning change to repeal and reestablish conditional overlay Timberlake Parkway, third edition, denial recommended by Planning Commission on 5/7, continue 6/3 and 6/17 regular meetings. It has come forth to us to have withdrawn. Can I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Lindberg. Strand.
Yes.
Garrick.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item B, zoning change from limited commercial to general commercial, Blue Water Creek, 4th edition, 4609 33 Avenue South. Approval recommended by Planning Commission on 6/4/19. First reading of the rezoning ordinance. Donald Crest to explain.
Good evening, Commissioners. Donald Kress from the Department of Planning and Development. Your packet tonight includes a zone change ordinance prepared by the City Attorney's Office. Here's the location of the zone change. As the Mayor has stated, this is a proposed zone change from limited commercial to general commercial zone. This is the Blue Water Creek development here, 32nd Avenue South, 45th Street South, 33rd and 47th Street. This is the property in question here, this rather large 13-acre lot. Took some pictures here this morning. This is standing at 47th and 33rd, looking northwest or northeast across the property. You'll see the applicant, Mr. Volmuth, and his company Paces Lodging are preparing this for development by lowering it, dealing with the flood situation there, or flood proofing it. Again, this is just another, we're on the other corner there. There's a ring road. If you look at this, there's a private road, or I call it a ring road, that goes around the property there. Standing here now looking northwest, you'll see there's properties, almost all the properties here are developed. There's one vacant one here. And then over here is the corner there where the applicant plans to develop a new office building, which was one of the bases for the request for this zone change. This property here has, as you see, the pink here is the limited commercial. He proposes to zone this to general commercial. But there's some limitations on that. There is an existing conditional overlay, which, as you commissioners may know, is an additional layer of regulations that is often applied or added to a zone change. This has been on that property for some time, and that those restrictions really limit some of the uses that you probably wouldn't want to have in this area, because it is more of a lighter commercial office area, and those are listed in your staff report there. But they prohibit the following uses: detention facilities, adult entertainment centers, signs, industrial service and manufacturing and production, warehouse and freight movement probably wouldn't be appropriate for this neighborhood. And there are also design standards in that conditional overlay that relate to, as you see there, building materials, color schemes, building facades, and perhaps most important for us in planning, the requirements for separate vehicular and pedestrian circulation systems. As you saw, that private road does have a sidewalk on it. It's almost entirely complete except for the one undeveloped lot. There are requirements for landscaping of that area. So what the applicant will get out of this from changing to from limited commercial to general commercial is an increased height limit and a greater building coverage on the lot. So, but these restrictions on the uses make it just about equal to the uses allowed in limited commercial, and keep out those heavier duty industrial and uses that might not be the right fit for that neighborhood. The applicant, Nate Volmuth of Paces Lodging, is with us tonight and may wish to address the commission. The Planning Commission's recommendation is stated on your staff report and shown on the screen. A preview of coming attractions. Also, having rezoned this, the applicant has applied to replat this property, which will go to the Planning Commission tomorrow and will come before your commission probably in the middle of August. He wants to divide that into, I believe, 6 lots, as I recall, and have that more for office-type development and maybe office and retail development. So that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to us in regard to this rezoning? Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Lindberg.
Aye.
Garrick.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mayor, somebody left their stuff.
Might be John Shockley. we'll get it later, Don, thank you. Item C, continue to 7/15/19 Renaissance Zone project for Clark Equipment Company for a commercial lease project located at 118 Broadway North. Is there a motion to continue the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
No.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Renaissance Zone.
Yeah, aye. Item D, continue to 7/29/19 transfer of Class A alcoholic beverage license from Firebox to International African Restaurant and Nightclub. Denial recommended by Liquor Control Board. They want to continue it till 7/29/19. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item E, application filed by Hofberger Escape doing rough cost social for Class CW alcoholic beverage license to be located at 1100 Northern Pacific Avenue, Suite 102. Steve Sprague to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The Class CW license is a beer and wine license. It does not require that they serve food, although that certainly is an option if they want to. This is that new kind of business that's kind of getting popular. It's the axe throwing is kind of what they're doing. We've done the background check on this applicant. It's come back very clean. I guess the applicant is here tonight. I haven't met him before, but if you wanted to do a presentation or something, they are available.
They're going to show axe throwing, you said?
I don't think they're going to throw axes tonight.
So everyone present who wishes to speak, you could come up and speak if you'd like. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Amy Stockberger. This is my sister, Stacy Huffman, and our manager, Alicia Spanik. We are the owners of Escape 605, Axe Throwing, and Escape Rooms in Sioux Falls. We started our escape room business back in 2016. We added the natural evolution of escape rooms in public recreation and basically just social hangout areas is going into the axe throwing. We started ours back in
December.
fall of 18 at our first location. We now have 3 locations in Sioux Falls. And our new rough cut, which we're proposing to put here, is going to be down on NP in the historic building down there, where Pixel also is in right now currently. We're going to have a social club in the front, so we have big life-size Connect 4, life-size Jenga. We have hook games. We have Hammerschlagen, which is just really fun. Just if you hit a nail in with a hammer on there and people sit around and hang out and have fun and conversation. Is our big demographic in Sioux Falls, and we're hoping to do here, is to do a lot of team building exercises, get them down, rent out the whole facility, enjoy an afternoon and evening down with us. And then we have our axe throwing venue in the back. We'll have 14 lanes back there.
You're saying if the commission came, they could team build?
You can.
Absolutely. We'd
Absolutely.
love to have you down there.
Very good. Any questions of the team? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to speak to this change?
Mayor, just one other comment then. We have been working with the applicants to get the proper building permits in place. So the recommendation that came from Liquor Control was to approve contingent on getting the proper building permits in place.
Okay.
That would be contingent, Mr. Chairman, on where the axes are thrown for proper structure integrity. Okay, I was just cracking humor.
Public hearing is closed. Can I have a motion?
I'd move to approve with the contingency.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Garrick?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item F, application filed by Drum Conrath Brewing Company, doing business as Drum Conrath Brewing Company for a Class Y alcoholic beverage license to be located at 630 First Avenue North, number 6. Steve Sprague.
The Class Y is our brewery taproom license. Drum Conrath has been in business in Mapleton for a number of years. The opportunity to move into Drecker's downtown location was there for them, and so that's what they're doing. They're here applying for that now. He said he'll be ready to have the grand opening by the middle of next week. So we're
Wow.
excited about this.
Anyone present who wishes to speak to this change? Anybody present wishing to speak? I'll close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Garrick?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Number 44, State Water Commission request for cost reimbursement FM diversion flood project. Cost on A are $973,992, and cost B are $88,000 and $136. Ken Costin to explain. And you got a C as well. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Commission, these are our cost reimbursements for monthly diversion costs. Items A and C are for land purchases for the channel and the Second Street project costs. And the one is from April, that's why there's a third one on the list. And the one in the middle, item B, is for the cost of May for a continuation of the Oxbow Ring Levy project. So with that, we would ask you to approve all of these.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Strand.
Second.
Renberg. Any discussion?
To be clear, that's all three.
All three.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Strand?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 45, you have my appointments, regular appointments for the following boards and commission: Library Board, Civil Service Board, Special Assessment Commission, Fargo Youth Initiative, and Board of Adjustment. You have my recommendations. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
Yes.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 23, request proposal for core neighborhood plans. This was pulled off the consent agenda and went to this. Nicole Crutchfield to explain.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, this item, I believe you've heard a small amount of briefings on this in the past, but just maybe for the audience and everyone else, we are asking permission to go out for an RFQ or RFP looking for consultants on a core neighborhood plan. And we did have a joint brown bag with our Planning Commission and Community Development Committee. Both of those commissions would be having oversight over this. And we're looking at a study area basically north of 19th Avenue North and south to I-94, east to the river and west to 25th Street. And the reason we want to do a core neighborhood plan is we've had decades of conversations regarding some of these issues we've heard that are on the PowerPoint here, and I won't read through all of those, but in brief summary, you've all been part of those discussions, and we thought it's time to finally have the resources, thanks to your budget improvement increases last year, that's what we would use to help find a consultant to take a deeper dive. Basically, it's that next level of planning from Go 2030 down to that next level, similar to what you saw in the Downtown in Focus level of work. And part of our, I'm not going to read through all of these, but part of our joint meeting with Planning Commission and the Community Development Committee, we were able to, that was open for the public. We did have some good input from the public as well. And part of that discussion was to confirm that we all had the same project outcomes and summary, so that when we go forward looking for the consultant, we look organized and have a game plan on how to proceed. And so the elements that would go into this request for proposal, what we're looking for is a consultant to be able to manage the project, of course, really focused on engagement with our stakeholders, which would obviously include the public. A lot of analysis, again, like you saw on the downtown plan, we would be looking for similar data, and really understanding comprehensively. We know that all of the neighborhoods aren't the same and that they're going to have individual characteristics, but at the same time, there's some similar issues that are applying to all. And so understanding that distinction, looking at that deeper dive and what policies might be affecting those neighborhoods and what policies might need some improvement. And then a lot of communication and presentations, again, similar to the Downtown in Focus plan, that type of rapport and integration. So we are ready to proceed on the RFP, and it may seem long in process, but we have been meeting internally, basically as a core planning team. Aaron Nelson is our staff lead on this with overview with me and Mark Williams. And then we would be publishing the RFP around July 22nd. It might get done a little bit earlier or a little bit later, but really close to that timeline. And then having about a month response, interviews in October, and looking for the contract to come to you before the end of the year. And so we would kick off in December for hopefully a full year of involvement. And so so this is roughly the time frame we're looking at, even though we have exact dates on here, like December 2nd, give or take a week or two as we find processes along the way. So process adjustments. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, or we're excited about this next step.
No, I'm glad you were working with the neighbors the other day. I saw you had a meeting up at the department and you're getting input. Why did you not include the neighborhood just south of 20 or 94, the Lincoln neighborhood area?
I think at this point in time, we're really focusing on, and it's probably questionable if we even need to go down as far south as I-94, really wanting to focus at the core neighborhoods surrounding downtown. Those are going to be the neighborhoods that are going to be immediately affecting impact. The area south of 94, and I'd say between south of 94 and 32nd Avenue South, and that next tier of development, those are going to need some additional deep dive analysis as well. But we didn't feel like a one size fits all for that area south of 94.
Well, I just know, but like Commissioner Garrick's always talked about the Kmart area. What are we going to do with the Kmart area? And I think it's a good question, but I'll leave that to your next study. Any questions by the commissioners? Can I have a motion?
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Pipcorn, any comment? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Grinberg?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Right. The only other question I had, there was a storm over the weekend, and Den Dow has been busily working on the boulevards. A lot of trees were knocked down. And a couple of our constituents called in and just said, as always, how quickly is the city going to address that? And I think Ben's on vacation today, but Mike has volunteered in.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll provide just a brief update. First, I would note this is going to be a long-term recovery operation here with our staff. Our forestry crews were out over the weekend. They are being assisted by our public works staff as well as our street department, just to make sure that we get debris removed from those roadways that have been blocked. That's the first priority of that staff, is to make sure that we're using that heavy equipment to get things out of the way so the traffic can move freely in the neighborhoods. After that operation wraps up, in about 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to come back with our forestry crews and inspect those trees that don't appear to be damaged today, but look for some additional damage so that we're catching it today, so that we, if we have any problems structurally with these trees, that we're addressing that yet this summer. And so that will be in a phase of work that follows this initial cleanup period, assess any additional damage. And then following that, we just ask that if property owners do have additional downed limbs and branches, that they get those out to the boulevard as quickly as they can. We're going to take a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, to get through these piles. So there is a significant amount of work to be had out there. We did bring in some private contract resources to assist our public works and forestry crews. And so we just really ask for the patience of the public, understanding that this is a very significant event citywide. There were some media reports that pointed to areas of North Fargo and then South Fargo, south of 32nd Avenue, that took perhaps more of the brunt of some of the winds and some of the tree damage. So we are getting out there, but the best thing the public can do is just help us get those branch piles out to those boulevards, and then spread them out so that we can pick them up and get moving along the way. That'll help us speed through the neighborhoods a little bit more quickly.
So 3 weeks is probably the latest it'll take to help clean up, but there's a lot of debris out there, and it takes us time to do it in timely fashion. So they always like everything done in a week, but we're asking them to be a little patient. This will take some time. And there was a lot of damage, so I think people have to understand it's not something you can clean up in 1 week. Good.
We'll come back with a report too after forestry goes through the summer and assesses damage, just to provide kind of a high-level strategy report of how it went.
And maybe next time our media guys can bring some photos to what some of the damage is done, but I know in a couple neighborhoods it really hit pretty hard.
And just a brief thank you too to these crews. They worked a good share of the weekend, and thanks for their continued efforts over the next several weeks. They're going to be integral to making sure we recover from this and get the neighborhoods cleaned up. So thank you.
Any other business of the commission? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.